Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
Have you ever noticed how silence can speak louder than words? When you stop reaching out to a man, no texts, no check-ins, no emotional hand holding, something shifts in his mind. And what happens next isn't just about ego or confusion. It's about what's buried deep inside his emotional wiring, the part he doesn't even understand himself. Today, we're uncovering what really happens in a man's mind when you don't reach out and why your silence might be the most powerful boundary you've ever set. I once coached a woman named Laura. She was 47, kind-hearted, deeply loyal, the kind of woman who believed that love could fix everything if she just tried harder. For years, she carried her relationship. She texted first. She apologized first. She bridged every silence. But one morning, she woke up and realized something heartbreaking. She was the only one showing up emotionally, so she stopped reaching out. Not out of anger, not as a game, but as a quiet act of self-respect. At first, he didn't notice. Then came the confusion, the overthinking, the sudden, "Hey, how've you been?" messages. But behind his words was fear, not love. Fear of losing the comfort of her presence, not the woman herself. And in that silence, Laura found something she hadn't felt in years: peace. When you stop reaching out, the first thing that happens is subtle, almost imperceptible, but your absence sends ripples through his mind. For years, he's grown accustomed to your presence, your texts, your calls, your consistent emotional availability. You've been the steady current in his life, the one who makes connection effortless, almost automatic. And when that current suddenly disappears, his brain notices. It doesn't just register that you're not there. It struggles to make sense of the change. Psychologists call this pattern disruption. Humans are wired to seek predictability, especially in relationships that feel safe. When a familiar pattern vanishes, it triggers a kind of internal alarm system. He starts questioning himself in ways he rarely would otherwise. Did I do something wrong? Or was I not enough? This is where your silence becomes more than just a pause. It becomes a mirror reflecting his own responsibility for the emotional dynamics he's grown used to taking for granted. And here's the nuance: it's not always about guilt or manipulation. Often, it's just confusion. His mind is used to coasting on your energy, to relying on your presence to smooth over emotional tension. When that support is removed, he's left alone with himself, with feelings he may have been avoiding. Anxiety, regret, longing, they surface in ways that are both uncomfortable and revealing. And for you, observing this doesn't have to be about control. It's about reclaiming your space and giving him the opportunity to step up emotionally, or to confront his own patterns of avoidance. In essence, your silence forces reflection, not through words, not through confrontation, but simply by being absent. It's a powerful, quiet way of saying, I am here, but I am not yours to prop up. I am not responsible for your emotional comfort. And in that space, he either learns to face himself or drifts further into avoidance. The choice becomes his, and the responsibility becomes clear. When you stop reaching out, something else quietly begins to shift inside him, something deeper than confusion or anxiety. It's his ego. For many men, emotional expression isn't just difficult. It's been shaped from childhood by messages like, don't cry, be strong, handle it yourself. Vulnerability feels risky, even dangerous, because it's unfamiliar territory. And when you step back, stop bridging the emotional gap, stop being the one who smooths over every silence, his ego kicks in. At first, it might look like indifference. He might scroll through his phone, distract himself with work, or convince himself that he doesn't care. But what's happening underneath is far more profound. Your absence forces him to face something he's rarely allowed himself to confront: his own emotional dependency on you. He has to sit with the reality that intimacy requires effort from both sides. That connection isn't just given, it's nurtured. And here's the thing, this is uncomfortable for him because vulnerability has a cost. To reach out genuinely, to admit longing, confusion, or regret, he must drop the protective armor he's carried for years. And that armor is heavy. It shields him from feeling unworthy, from confronting his failures, and from owning his part in the emotional work of the relationship. But when you stop doing it for him, when you stop filling the gaps he's left unaddressed, the armor starts to feel restrictive. It becomes harder to hide behind. In that quiet space you've created, he is faced with a choice: continue to defend himself with ego, driven detachment, or lean into discomfort, vulnerability, and accountability. Your silence doesn't force him to change, but it removes the safety net that allowed him to avoid change. And often, that's the first step toward true emotional growth, because real reflection, real awareness, begins not with words, but with the absence of what he's grown used to relying on. When you stop reaching out, something quietly powerful begins to happen. He starts to face emotional accountability. This is the moment where the pattern of one-sided effort comes into sharp relief. For so long, he may have been able to coast on your consistency, your patience, your willingness to bridge every silence. He didn't have to show up fully because you were already showing up for both of you. And when that safety net is removed, reality lands in a way that can't be ignored. At first, he might misinterpret your silence. He may think it's punishment, a game, or even indifference. But slowly, that quiet absence begins to act as a mirror, reflecting the truth of the relationship back at him. The mirror doesn't lie. It shows how much effort was really one-sided, how much emotional labor he avoided, and how much he took for granted. It's uncomfortable. It's unsettling. And yet it's necessary. In that discomfort, growth begins, but only if he's willing to face it. He has to see that connection cannot survive without mutual effort. He has to recognize that love isn't just a feeling. It's an action, a commitment, a choice made every single day. And when you're no longer the one constantly making that choice for him, he is confronted with his own role in the emotional health of the relationship. What's beautiful here is that your silence doesn't force him to do anything. It simply creates the space for him to see himself clearly, to feel the weight of what he has ignored, and to decide whether he is willing to rise to the occasion. And if he does, it's because he has truly reflected, not because he was pressured or manipulated. That reflection born out of your absence has the power to transform not just the relationship, but his understanding of intimacy, responsibility, and vulnerability. When you stop reaching out, something almost magical begins to happen, not just in him, but in you. Your energy starts to shift. For years, you may have been living on emotional standby, waiting for his messages, interpreting his silences, adjusting your feelings to match his moods. That constant vigilance is exhausting, and it quietly erodes your sense of self. But the moment you step back, a remarkable recalibration begins. You stop overthinking. You stop bending yourself into shapes to fit into someone else's emotional comfort zone. And when that happens, your nervous system relaxes. You start breathing differently, standing taller, and feeling the subtle freedom that comes from no longer carrying the weight of someone else's emotional responsibility. This shift doesn't go unnoticed. Men are wired to sense energy, the authentic, calm confidence that radiates when a woman is no longer chasing, no longer performing to keep the connection alive. That energy is magnetic. It communicates boundaries without words, self-respect without aggression, and strength without harshness. He senses the difference immediately. The woman he's used to depending on is no longer available for emotional scaffolding, and in that sensing, he begins to confront his own choices, his own effort, or his lack thereof. For some men, it ignites curiosity, reflection, and even growth. For others, it clarifies their inability to meet you where you deserve to be met. Either way, your presence in your own life sets the standard for how he experiences you, and for how he learns to step into accountability and genuine connection. This is the ultimate power of your silence. It's not punishment. It's energy. It's the quiet, steady assertion that you are whole, worthy, and present for yourself first. And when you stand in that energy, you no longer just influence the relationship, you transform it. Or, at the very least, you transform yourself. And that is where true freedom and strength begin. If you're listening to this and realizing you've been the one always reaching out, always holding the emotional line, I want you to hear this. Silence isn't punishment. It's healing. It's the space where you remember who you are when you're not constantly proving your love. It's the pause that invites others to rise or fall away, and either outcome sets you free. So the next time you feel the urge to text, explain, or overextend, breathe instead. Let the silence speak for you. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can say is nothing at all. If this message spoke to your heart, hit that like button, share it with another woman who needs to hear it today, and subscribe for more Brené Brown style talks on courage, boundaries, and emotional healing. You belong here.